Hey friends, welcome to the Glow Getters podcast. My name's Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, but you can call me KFA because nobody can say that last name. I teach and inspire leaders to step into their power, productive selves, and unlock their fullest potential. I'm a multi-passionate creative and scientist who climbed to the top of the healthcare leadership ladder by age 28, making six figures as a manager. I share what I've learned that I wish I knew when I landed my first leadership role at age 25. You can find more from me on my Patreon site at patreon.com/KFA Glowgetters. Okay, now on to the show. Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for listening to another episode of Coffee with Kayla. I decided I wanted to do kind of a mashup today of a leadership podcast, but relate it back to just like everyday life and lessons learned. So I want to preface that by saying I do believe that we all have capacity to be leaders and that we all lead in different ways. Just because you have a title doesn't mean that you're going to be the most amazing leader, and even if you don't have a title, it doesn't mean that you're not a leader. So I just think that everybody has capacity and everybody does lead in different ways. There's a whole conversation we could have about leader as a follower. So I'm not going to get into that today, but that just made me think that would be a good episode. So today I want to talk about just something I've been experiencing lately. So you guys know, if you've been listening, that I started, I kind of revamped up my art side gig, which is really just an outlet for me to be creative and de-stress and just do a hobby that I love that doesn't include like logistics or like intense healthcare planning or budgeting or whatever it may be. It's just an outlet for me. And, I want to spread joy, and if I make and create things that other people can have them and that it will do good. So that's called Blue Hue Art, and on Instagram it's at blue.hue.art, so you can check it out there. But anyways, so I have been trying to not force myself to, I have to create art every day, because I feel like that's really stressful. But what I have been doing is create when you feel moved to create, and also but try to be somewhat consistent, right? But with no pressure, right? No pressure. And so I've been often creating in the morning. I'll get up early like I normally do because I'm just an early riser. And I'll just say I'm going to create for 30 minutes. Because otherwise I could sit there and create for like 3 hours. I would be like, oh, I should probably start my day. And so early in the morning or at night to unwind. And I'm finding that, one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm trying something new. So I'm trying watercolor. I've been wanting to try it for a long time, and I just really haven't. And what I realize is, which is obvious, the more that I use it, the more creative I get, the more willing I am to take risks with what I'm doing, with how I'm creating. And I guess the more I learn and the better I get over time, right? So my first piece with watercolor was I can't even remember what it was, but I didn't realize how much water I should use to make the values of the colors, more sharp or less sharp, more watered down looking and transparent, or more opaque. And so over time I've been really able to experiment with that and really have no boundaries. Because honestly, there's no way for me to fail here. It's just for fun. It's my own art. And so really, I've just been telling myself, just go for it. Don't overthink it. Just go for it. And this past week at work, we've had a leadership retreat. And our leaders we're trying to turn our culture around from what we call hero to host, which is hero mentality. When you think about leadership, is really the leader feels like they're responsible for solving all the problems and that they have all the answers, and that they really need to protect their workers and staff to make sure they're okay all the time and that they don't have any issues, and every issue gets brought to the leader. You guys, that model is so unsustainable, and I've been there, especially as a new leader. When I was 25, kind of thrown into being a supervisor for the first time with really no direction, no clear picture of what are my responsibilities, what would it look like. And in some sense that was good and bad, because what I ended up doing was I was able to kind of create my own style, but I also kind of lived in the world that my previous supervisor lived in for a bit in time. So what I mean by this is, I'd be at my desk working and obviously check in on my staff, do Gemba walks, walk around and see what's going on. But I'd be working and people would come to my desk, like every 5 minutes and, hey, Kayla, I have a question. Hey, I have a question. I need your help. And for a while, I was like, yeah, like open door policy. Like, I'm so happy that people feel like they can come to me. I've always been a good listener and someone people feel comfortable coming to. And then I got so overwhelmed over time. Like, my first thought was, these people don't know the answers to the questions they're bringing to me. Like, that's so surprising. I really find it hard to believe that they don't know this because I feel like they do. Like, I believe so much in them, and I believe that they had the answers in the tools that we provide that are there for them. So if they don't know it, like, whoa, what's going on? And then secondly, like, I cannot get my other functions done, my more administrative things or things I need to do to make sure the business runs and that people are safe and that we have equipment and all of that, because I keep getting interrupted. So something has to change. And I think I might have told this story on the podcast before, but I had to tell this story, and I don't know how well received it was, but I told the story with my staff, like, hey guys, you need to tie your own shoes. So when I was in kindergarten, the first half of the school year, my teacher was like, sure, I will totally help you tie your shoes. I will teach you how to tie your shoes. And we'd go to her, Mrs. Galich, can you help me tie my shoe? My shoe came untied. Sure. And she'd say, make a loop, whatever, go around, put the bunny ear through the hole, like, tighten it up, you got it, whatever her little slogan was. And she'd teach us and show us, and we'd practice. And then after winter break, she said, guys, I'm going to have to forget how to tie your shoes. Like, I won't know how to tie your shoes for you anymore. You have to come after winter break be able to tie your own shoes. And I said that to my staff, like, you guys need to be able to solve your own problems. I can help you get there, but I can't give you all the answers, right? Like, this isn't sustainable for any of us. And how are you going to grow as just people and workers and leaders and all of that if I just give you the answers? And so how this relates back to my art is that, like, as leaders, I think sometimes we feel like we have to be so in control, and we can never we actually, like, find ourselves asking for permission. I feel like I hear this a lot from people, especially I even heard this in the retreat yesterday. They say things like, is this allowed? Or is it okay if I just blah, blah, blah? And really, it's like, if you want to do something or make a change as a leader, go for it. Obviously, like, maybe check in with your boss if you feel like it's something crazy. But, if you're in a role, there is nothing to say that you have to do it the same as the person before you. I think great leaders find their own niche, and they're like, hey, this wasn't working before, or this work is working really well. I'm going to keep doing that or not do that anymore. And I'm going to do my own thing. And I think that's totally fine and appreciated. I think the idea that things have to be the way that they have always been because that's the way they've been is so silly, because the world's changing, so things gotta change, right? So when I hear leaders say, like, I didn't know I was allowed to do something different, that's part of the culture that they live in, is one, like, the system doesn't allow for innovation or for folks to feel empowered to do things. But then also maybe it's their own closed-mindedness. Like, they don't realize that, heck yes, like, you own your position, you own the things you do as a leader, like, you can make a change. So when I think about art, it's like, my art has given me the space to experiment without worrying about failure. Like, who cares if it looks ugly at the end of the day? Like, I learned something about values of colors and different, like, thickness of lines and edges and perspective and water level and all of that. And the next painting will be better, right? Like, I'll have used those skills, hopefully implemented them, or, along the way, the next subsequent paintings, they'll get better, or they'll get different, or they'll allow me to explore more a new area that I never knew about. I feel like the same with leaders. The more that you take a little bit of risk, or you focus on progress over perfection, things open up for you and you become limitless. I think you start thinking of things that you never thought about, or possibilities and opportunities just feel like more natural than they ever would have. You start to, your mind is open and you're not so closed off to what has always been. And so I think that's just a important parallel. So I think if you do have a creative outlet that can help free your mind, that would be a good option for you if you're a leader, someone who wants to grow, is to have a practice where you don't have to fear failure, and then it will become normalized for you that, trying something new is totally okay. The other thing that I have been thinking about during this leadership retreat is, I was like, man, shoot, y'all, they have all these tools for how to do their work now, like leader standard work templates, and there's something called a RACI, which is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. It's basically like a tool to write all the tasks that you do in relation to the other folks you work with. So who's responsible for this, who's accountable, who would you need to consult, who might you need to inform. I love this tool. It's awesome. And I think over time, I've tried to create these tools for myself and for others, saying hey guys, write your task list out, give it priorities, give it yellow, green, red, yellow, different priorities. How frequent do you do this? Do you do this daily, weekly, monthly, Monday, Wednesday, Friday? And so at this retreats, they have templates for this stuff. And I couldn't help but think shoot, I wish I could go back in time, right? I wish I could do over some of the leadership roles that I had before, because I would just crush it, with the tools they have today. I'm sure people say that. I probably sound like such an old lady, way back when I didn't have these tools and we were just fine. It's no, these are amazing growth opportunities for these folks, and I'm just jealous. Well, you know what? That's such a silly mindset for me to be in, because I have the tools now, right? So I can use them now. And I think that, whenever you are in a position and that you leave and someone comes after you, there's some succession that happens, you've somehow paved the way for that person to be able to exist in that space. Especially, we talk about, for women, it feels good to feel represented and see yourself in a position. If you saw a woman leader in a position that you maybe aspired to, and then it becomes more normal and you're I could totally do that, that's achievable. So I just try to remember okay, I existed in a space before somebody else did and made mistakes and did things really well, and kind of a mix. And it doesn't matter if I could go back and crush it now. That's not what I was meant to do. I was meant to be in that space at that time for what was needed and grow in my own way so I could be where I am now, and those who have come after me can be there now and just crush it even more, right? If you set the foundation, if you set someone up for success, I feel the hope is that they do a better job than you ever did, right? So I would always want to leave a position in a place where the next person can be more successful than I ever was, which as a leader, it's a little hard to swallow, the next person's going to do better than you, but I think we all want things to succeed over time. And how cool would that be if the next person could you've elevated everything right to the next level so that they can just be awesome. So I guess when I think about the tools that the leaders have now that I didn't have, it's yeah, actually that's awesome, because we only want to get better. And maybe I needed to exist in a space where it was kind of an in-between time, and maybe I was creating for myself, and I had to do that in order to be able to be a leader to those people who've come after me. So in summary, guys, I know I kind of rambled, but just thoughts I wanted to get out. In summary, find a creative space that can help you channel taking risk, trying new things, not being afraid to fail, learning and growing those skills, and translate it into your leadership And if you're a leader who wishes you had the tools that people have now, like just be so happy that those folks have those tools. Use those tools for yourself and continue to share and teach and grow other people to do an even better job. All right, guys, have an awesome Friday. Talk to you later. Whoa, that went by way too fast. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Glow Getters Podcast. You can get the bonus content for this podcast at my Patreon site at www.patreon.kfaglowgetters. And also you can check me out on Instagram at Fahey-Ahrndt. All right, everyone, until next time, be a light in the world. Talk to you soon.